All right,
All
I
right.
believe we're on again. A premium account from X is required to create live broadcasts. So, in case any of you are wondering how that works, we don't have that at this point. But you know what? We'll bring it. We'll bring it. Sort of like the people who aren't bringing Mandarin Oriental to Boca Raton, or at least it certainly
Let's
looks
talk
that
about it.
way. Larry Mastropieri, real estate broker and owner of the Mastropieri Group, also a snappy dresser. I'm John Laws here on behalf of Discover South Florida. So the Real Deal had a nice little article about a month or so ago talking about the Mandarin Oriental mess, which, if you aren't familiar with it, this is a project that got started in, I believe, in 2019. And here we are in the final months of 2024, and it doesn't look like it's anywhere close to being done. I had to see it with my own eyes again today for the first time in a little while. And yeah, it's not good. But as you can imagine, people who had already put down deposits that had anticipated moving into this multi-million-dollar place, yeah, they had to sue to try to get their deposits back because Penn Florida was not having it. Larry, what is going on there?
There's not too much information coming out of Mandarin, frankly. It's moving at a snail's pace. It's unbelievable. I expected so much more traction at this point, right? I mean, it's got, and we were just looking at it today. Look at that, right?
That was June of last year, but
Yep.
Wait a little bit here. You're going to see how far it's come in the year plus since.
Oh, I love this. This is great.
Spoiler alert, it's not much.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I've driven by it so many times, but you never really stop and look at it. And then today, when I had an opportunity to shoot some more video of it, I'm like, oh my goodness. Aside, you'll see here in a second, aside from the top of it, they have not done anything. It's scary. I understand sometimes you can get behind the construction. I mean, that's a given, but we're talking about 5 years now on a
at least, right?
No, right. To give you a better idea on some of the specs on this place, it was a 164 room hotel and then 86 unit condo. Okay, so you'd imagine the larger side is the hotel, the other side the condos. Maybe they just bit off more than they could chew. I don't know.
So if you talk to the developers at the Alina, which is right down the way, they've had, I don't want to speak for them.
Look at this.
So
This was today.
Yeah, this is crazy. Some of the people that are representing the Alina, we'll put it that way, as realtors, they would say, the Alina has experience at developing property and building property, and these guys, Penn Florida, they're good at building retail, but they don't have a whole ton of experience building luxury spaces like this. And so that's the argument as to why these guys aren't executing well here. I don't know if that's true or not, but this is what I've heard through the grapevine. Mm-hmm. So that could be true. I mean, they've refinanced this deal more than once, right? Yeah. And they've pulled a ton of cash to get this project done. And when they refinanced, I thought they were going to get it done. I thought it was just cash constrained. And after they refinanced years later, still not done. Right. Unbelievable.
Oh, man. You've been doing this for a while now. Are there any other projects that come to mind that have been as much of a cluster as this appears to have been so far?
When you get started and you're this far along in the project, you typically finish, you move it along, you get it done because you're spending real money right now by not getting it done, by not finishing it. There's projects that sit with not out of the ground, right? They sit with just dirt. They've been bulldozed. They're sitting there. That's one thing. But to be mid-project and just stop, that screams major issues, in my opinion. So that's concerning.
So,
yes,
all right.
James, it is crazy.
Hypothetical. Let's say they can't finish it. What happens? It's going to sit there until somebody else buys up the land and knocks it down? Or, I mean, are we going to have a concrete canyon eyesore right there next to the Boca Raton Golf Club? Because that's bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I can't imagine these guys not being able to finish this. I mean, the Penn Florida.
Right. They obviously have done a lot of projects around South Florida. I mean, I see signs for Penn Florida, a lot of places here.
Yeah, they're the real deal. I mean, they have deep pockets, arguably, but not every deal goes well. And sometimes these big private equity firms or these big real estate developers, sometimes they don't get it done. And so maybe they do, give it back to the bank, and then the bank goes and finds some other firm to buy it and finish the project. That sounds like a disaster. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's the path if these guys don't get this done.
And like you said, they've refinanced on it several times. But I guess what I'm trying to understand partially is how they've been fighting with the expected, tenants or owners, I should say, of the properties, to give them back their deposits, because clearly they haven't delivered. I mean, they are literally years behind on schedule. Why? I mean, are they banking on using those 7-figure funds to finish the construction first?
So, I mean, the deposits, then they're massive deposits, right?
7 figures, right?
Yeah, like millions of dollars from each
1.3 million on at least one of them here.
Yep. And so that money is being used to fund this project for sure. There's no question about that. And the dynamic duo. Thanks, Gabby. So yeah, it's absolutely being used to fund the project, and it's really crazy to think that, from the time those deposits were put down by these buyers, the 3-year period allotted in the contract for them to deliver the unit has come and gone, and we're well beyond that period. We're 2 years beyond that period. So frankly, these buyers have been patient, waiting till year 5 from the day they've pre-sold or purchased or put deposits down on these units. And these were big numbers. They were going to close in the 4s, 5s, 6s. There's units in there that are $10 million. So this is really, really wild to think that you're buying, you prepaid for something, you're expecting to get a incredible product in a timely manner, and you're not delivering, and you're paying premium. You're paying for arguably some of the best real estate in Boca Raton, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One element, I was going to say, I mean, one element that I really have come to respect about Boca Raton is how they have restrictions on how high you can put buildings. You go to Fort Lauderdale, you go to Miami. As soon as you're approaching the city, you could see the high rises over everything else. And I can't stand that. No offense. I mean, each their own, however everyone lives, your business. But one of the biggest perks of being in a coastal area is seeing the coast. So when I'm going along Boca Raton, places aren't so gargantuan that I can't, see like, oh yeah, there's the ocean right there. It's beautiful. That sort of thing. I really feel like, to the credit of city planners, 50 plus years ago that were putting this town together, understood that vision and have really stuck with it. Even in cases like this where, things aren't panning out so far. Imagine if that was a ginormous, high-rise building that's just going to sit there and just overshadow everything. So at least, they seem to be on top of that as preventative as they can be.
The city planners, I think, did a good job many, many years ago creating the vision for the city. I know some people argue that we're kind of overdeveloping right now, but I personally like the development. But as long as they're keeping and maintaining these parks and these green spaces, which they are, in my opinion, but there's so many parks and green spaces on the beach compared to some of these other cities in South Florida that have just been massively overdeveloped. So, yeah.
All right. So you would think that was the only WTF place that is not happening here in the Boca Raton area, but I had to see another one with my own eyes today because I kind of forgot about it. And it's right down the road from you, the One South Ocean Boulevard, which I had to look this up. It was in 2016 that they finally got approval. Excuse me, it was 5 years. That would be 2021. So it took them 5 years from 2016 to 2021 to get approval for this location, which is right there at Palmetto Park Road and A1A. It's a prime, oceanfront real estate
Great
property.
Yeah.
And, it took them a year to clear the space. August 2022, we have the video where they were clearing the previous building, looked like some old apartments, whatever. You go 2 years later, and they haven't done anything. Unless I'm missing something, they have done nothing with that spot so far. I'm just stunned.
I drive by it every day. so yeah.
Yes, this was August of 2022.
So since August of 2022, they've fenced the whole area, which I think it's fenced there too. They've knocked everything down, so there's nothing but dirt there now, and it's been that way for a long time. Right. So what is going on? Why aren't they done? And there's some updates we have for you guys, and more. They're recent, right? I mean, this is as of a couple months ago, I believe. They've kind of given us.
They've done nothing.
Yes,
if they did anything, they planted trees. Are those like wild trees that just because the place has gone untapped for so long that the vegetation has taken over?
And created a mosquito pit right there. You see all that water?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, gosh.
Right next to the ocean.
And so I live in the neighborhood just north of where we're looking there. And there's call it a civic association that's been in communication with this developer and with the city in regards to getting, results that we feel would be great for our neighborhood. And it seems like they've been working amenably or working well together, right? Which is nice. And so the developer has, taken into consideration the community's opinions and thoughts. And it seems like the community is supporting this. So again, it's kind of interesting to hear that it's taking so long to get this done, but they have a long way to go. From what I understand from last we chatted about this, they still have to go through city approvals and all that. They've recently presented an updated building plan, right, John?
Okay.
So they've recently presented updated proposals on how they're going to design this building. And I mean, it looks awesome.
I remember when you did a vlog on it right around the time I first started working with you. And so it was 7 stories, those glass units that you could see all, from the intercoastal out to the ocean. I mean, it looked terrific, and I'm sure it will be if it ever happens. My only question is, how much do you think the underground parking garage, which was intended as part of the project, 180 parking spaces, that's obviously always a challenge considering you're building in a swamp. Does that factor into why they haven't been able to get anything going yet?
I think it's all red tape, city approval type stuff that they're still going through. I haven't seen that usually when they get financing for this project. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but I haven't seen that. I haven't seen them get a loan for this. And usually when you see them get a loan, that typically means they're ready to go, right? They've got permits applied for, all plans approved, all everything's a go, because then the lender is going to only work with them when this is really ready to go. And so when you see the real deal report, hey, we've lent X amount of dollars, like this bank has lent X amount of dollars to this developer, then you usually know it's going to start coming out of the ground pretty quickly because they get after it right then and there. But I haven't seen that yet, which is surprising. So that usually suggests that either the economic climate isn't conducive for them to do this, which I don't think that's really true, but maybe they have other projects going on and they can't dedicate attention to this, or they're still going through some form of approvals or final approvals that they can't go to the bank yet and get financing on this thing. I'm really excited to see this one get done. Like this would be awesome. I mean, it's right by my house, frankly. So, and I think it's going to look really, really nice when they finish this. So I think this will be an awesome project.
Yeah. The initial designs and sketches looked incredible, but you talk about putting the horse before the cart. I mean, you've bought up this land, you've gone to the trouble of tearing everything down that was in its place. Is it possible that maybe they're initial financing that they were banking on fell through or something like that?
They may have been doing the underwriting based on pre-2022 debt, right? They may be waiting for better terms on the debt. The interest rates are coming down a bit, so maybe this is a next year project, and that's what I meant by like it might not be the best economic environment for a developer right now. Things cost more than they ever have, right? From financing to construction materials. And maybe they're just being patient and waiting for things to level out. That could be the answer from a cost perspective. That could be part of the puzzle here for sure. That might be why they're not rushing it, right?
Right.
So,
I guess it's like worth it to them to not try to break ground on it and wait it out for better terms. That's the only thing that could make any kind of logical sense.
Usually, so like when we look at development projects on a much smaller scale here, and we're working with our clients, a lot of times we're leaving, because again, we're much smaller scale projects, we're leaving the existing building in place, getting rent, collecting whatever from that income from that property until we get the final approvals. And then once you get the final approvals, you might even go get the loan, and then you might go bulldoze, right? For these bigger entities, these bigger companies, they may have thought they were going to get this done much faster. So maybe that was just didn't play out that way. Or two, they just go ahead and get it rolling. They get the development part rolling, where they're just, because you can tear down things quicker than you can get approval to build things, right? So that's definitely it's a different game at this level. But usually, like even when I've done some of my development projects, I continue to collect income while I'm waiting for the city and the banks to show up with the money and the approvals, right?
Man, I was gonna say that was a world I am just not familiar with, but
it's a risky world. Like you're making a bet on the future,
Mm-hmm. Well, the good news is not every project that has been happening in that area have taken so long to finish. In fact, one of the other ones that I had an opportunity to check in on today, Royal Palm Residences, which is a couple blocks north of there. Man, it looks good. It really, they did a nice job on that. I remember seeing it last year when it was still under construction, but this was the first time I really got to see it as a finished product. And yeah, they did good work there.
They executed well, right? Again, this is another one right by my house. I drive by it every day, right? So yeah, that was when we reported on it when it was first, coming out of the ground, or midway through coming out of the ground. But they've pretty much, this thing's done at this point, and they've knocked it out. And they've sold a bunch. There's actually some are being resold right now on the market, which is kind of neat. And so we've been poking around here with our clients, looking at stuff, and I can even share some. Yeah,
I was like really impressed.
Great shots today, John.
Do what I can. It was a little windy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So this thing's clean. You can see where is the parking. It's all underground,
right? Which
is really neat.
And that's one of the things you talked about in that vlog, was how it's an undertaking to work in a swamp, dig a hole in the ground, put a parking garage there, and then build on top of it. So that's why I wondered, looking at the One Ocean South, because that's part of their plan as well, at least initially, if that was factoring to why they were having so much trouble getting it started.
Yeah, and this is kind of the only way they can maximize sales or sellable square feet, because if they can't go any higher, there's a height restriction, right? And so digging into the ground and building this parking garage in the ground is kind of neat. So they're basically building what we would call a reverse swimming pool, right? They have to keep all the water out underground, which is a feat, because a couple feet down, a foot down is the water, the water table. You're hitting the water table immediately. You see how close this is to the intercoastal. So it was done well. I really like this building. I really like the outcome. The units in here, just for context, are selling. I'm going to share my screen right here, stealing your thunder here. But example, the units in here are selling and have sold between, let's see, recently 3.7 million, and highest sold right now 4.98 million. There's some actives at 5.2 million. There's a guy pending at 5.2 million, and the cheapest one just listed in there, 3.3 million. Now, the cheapest one, as an example, selling or listed for $13.91 a foot, 3 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, 2-car garage, 2,400 square feet. So it's kind of interesting. And some of the more expensive ones have sold or selling around that $1,400 to $1,500 a foot range. So for new construction in the 2,500 square foot range, you're seeing about $1,500 a foot, $1,400 a foot in downtown Boca, which is interesting. So that's
when I look at that setup and the buildings, obviously it's not as large as the project on the other side of the Boca Raton Golf Club that we were talking about at the beginning of this video. Is there a lesson to be learned from what they were able to accomplish to the Concrete Canyon eyesore that's 5 years in and still not done?
I told you, I asked the people at the Alina, because I was there the other day, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But Royal Palm residents, I'm sure, they're just like, hey, we're better than they are. We know we're smarter. We do this more. We do luxury condo construction all the time. And Florida Penn doesn't. I really don't understand why they're having such a hard time executing. What I've heard, and as you know, I have some exposure to the development world. Some of the developers that they're working with, or the contractors or the subcontractors they're working with, have been difficult, is what I've heard, or they've been having disputes with the contractors at the Mandarin. So maybe their relationships with the contractors they're working with just isn't tight, and they're not getting along. That could be part of it.
Yeah, so maybe there was a certain degree of arrogance, because you've been successful at the other types of construction you've done, that you think, oh yeah, what, our guys can do this. This won't be a problem. And then you go into it and you realize experience counts for something, even when you're working with a new type of project. I mean, that would make logical sense, sadly.
Yeah. I mean, what's sad about Florida Penn's inability to execute on this one? They have another awesome project that we may or may not be talking about in Boca, right off 95 and Spanish River, that we've reported on in the past. And they haven't moved dirt on that at all. But that would be exciting if they could actually finish the Mandarin so they can move on to this next project. And I question if they're actually going to move on to this next project after they've had such a hard time executing this one. So
I guess it's I'd imagine it's a cautionary tale for everybody else in the industry who operates in these parts, I would think.
Yeah. My business partner who works in private equity in Manhattan, on the investment side, he says, it doesn't always work. Like you think all these big guys, they're making the smartest decisions, but there's big guys that don't always get it done. They give the keys back. They mess up. They mess up from time to time, and we're seeing it happen at the Mandarin. Yeah. Okay.
Well, let's see another one that hopefully won't mess up. That's still very much in the early stages. We have the Aletto at Sanborn Square, office building that. I guess they were breaking ground on that, I believe this year.
It's fenced in right now. It's fenced in. They've demoed some of the area. So it feels like this one is gonna rock and roll here soon. But that's what we thought about the other one on the beach. So
well, I remember, and what makes this project different from some of the other ones we've been talking about is it's not one of those mixed use ones. I mean, it seems like so many of these projects we've seen, for example, in the Mandarin, they'll have the shopping centers and stuff on the lower floors, and then the residential above it, all these mixed use type of projects. This is not one of those. This seems to be a through and through office space. And
this is interesting, right? It's interesting that they're building a lot of office here and retail right there. I think I get it. I get that, for some reason, I think we all just default to, they're probably building more residential stuff.
Right. But, that's next to the Tower 155 there, the white one, which is brand spanking new. So it would make sense.
which is also nice, a nice building too. That's a great option. There you go. So you can see it off the, some of that. I think they've expanded. So that's not the whole space. They've expanded that since you've videoed that. Yeah, right. December 2023. That was a little while ago. So they've since demoed everything in that area that's associated with that. What's incredible about these projects is they're building these things on such little amount of land, right? All these projects are like 1 to 2 acre lots or aggregated lots. And they're building massive projects here.
I mean, it's only a 1.3 acre site and you have 3 buildings on it. So for anybody who's not familiar, the first building is a 10-story, 120,000 square foot tower. Number 2, we have a 6-story building with nearly 30,000 square feet of offices, and over 4,200 square feet of commercial restaurant space. So, you hopefully get some restaurants there. That'd be nice. The third one is a 7-story parking garage with 550 spaces, which it's like, thank you. Because I feel like maybe the biggest problem with, a place like Boca Raton, it's very nice, but parking, I'm a hassle-free kind of guy. That makes me crazy when I have to expend energy finding parking. We all have our vices. Me trying to find a parking spot, it just saps the life out of me.
So for anybody who doesn't really know exactly where this is just south of Meisner Park. I mean, it's right there. All this is in walking distance from Meisner. And if you've ever gone to Meisner on a busy evening, it's really hard to get parking. It's a little bit better than downtown Delray Beach, frankly, but not much. And so the parking garages in Meisner Park fill up. That's usually where you might go first. Most of the street parking is gone. So getting a parking garage right here is actually probably the sweet spot. You're right in between Royal Palm Plaza, which is just to the south, and Meisner Park. It's a great location. So evening parking after work is just going to be a lot of extra space, which is awesome for parking and make life a lot easier. And, regarding the office space decision by this developer or the city and the developer, frankly, I think it's good. There's not too much really nice new product in East Boca when it comes to office space. So I don't think they're going to have a hard time filling this. Boca Raton, by the way, has more office space than many of the other cities around. If you didn't know that, it has a lot more. Now, West Palm has been building some incredible office spaces recently. There's many developers. Related is one of them, and they've been executing on this, and they've been filling these things up like no problem. Now, West Palm's a little different, but Boca, I don't think is going to have a problem filling these up. We shopped for office space, a couple of years ago, and I was frankly disappointed at the quality or the just the buildings that I was going into for the location I wanted to be. And this will be great. People will use this.
It's interesting you say that. This is reportedly the first new Class A office space in downtown Boca Raton in 25 plus years. That's surprising because I agree with everything you said. It's the headquarters of some notable companies. I think of Office Depot. I think of Celsius. Celsius is an up and comer. And, when I see where we do our Real Deal podcasts on site, the Celsius headquarters, it's like, man, that's a growing business that I'm seeing more and more national spots for.
There's a number of interesting startups in Boca, let alone just good demand for office space. So I think this is going to be a no-brainer. They're going to pre-lease this pretty quickly when they get close to finishing.
Yeah. So. The only other thing I had noticed as I'm watching the video of this, if you could see the shots of everything around Sanborn Square, which of these is not like the others? I look at the spots where they're building, and it just totally makes sense. I don't have to draw a line on any of this to see where they're tearing down. You could just tell that it's like, it's kind, it's like it's time.
So that project's proposed and underway. So this one looks like it's going to get done. Then there's another one that we may or may not be mentioning here, right where that pink building is. If you're looking straight ahead, closer to Meisner Park, next to next to the new condo development there. That has a big proposal to get bulldozed, and
that's one of Batmazian's properties, correct?
Correct. Investments limited. So we'll see if that one ever gets done. But they have proposals there. So this whole little downtown sector in between Meisner Park and Royal Palm Plaza could really transform. And I think for the better. It's going to be great. I'm excited.
All right. We'll definitely keep an eye on that one. Here's another residential property that you did a vlog on about a year ago, about a year ago. It's another one that's impressive for the small amount of actual space it takes up. It is a perfectly located luxury residential development. It was originally called the Rive del Meisner, but it's recently been renamed to Le Rave Boca Raton, which sounds, way better, because we're talking about mega luxury 3-story townhomes planted in the Golden Triangle. And, it's just 5 total units, but obviously, they're very nice units, ranging in price from 4.8 million to 5.2, 4,200 to 6,400 square feet under air. So needless to say, this is very nice. I know you've been there and you've seen the sketches and everything. What do you think?
We were having this debate the other day, me and a couple of people I was driving in the car with, because we drove by, and I was just like, man, those are big numbers, because there's homes, single family homes right within that neighborhood that are trading between, I don't know, 4, maybe even 3.5 to 6.5, right? There's some that may sell for more than that, but with the similar square feet, you can buy a single family home at that price. So it'll be interesting to see. But the argument that was made to me is, yeah, Larry, but not everybody wants to own a single family home. There you go. You got recent shots of this. This is awesome.
This was from this afternoon.
Yeah. So they're rocking and rolling. These things are going to be done soon. I would bet 6 months out, finished. They'd probably tell you 3, but I'd bet 6. Right. So sometime early next year, first, second quarter, probably this is done. And so we'll probably see sales when they get closer to the finish line. Now you can see it's on a busier road, right? It's right there across the street from Meisner Park and
yes. If you look in the lower right corner of this shot, Meisner Park is to the northwest of it. It's a couple blocks, easy walking distance. So it's like I said, it's a terrific location.
Yeah, great location, walking distance to everything you want in downtown. So prime spots. The townhomes to the left here in that picture, they're older, but they're selling between high 1s, low 2s, nothing really in the 3s. So you're getting a lot more square feet, a much newer product, more quality, more amenities, all that good stuff for in the 4s. It's not crazy. It just feels a little elevated from my perspective, but they might get it done. They might get it done.
I was going to say, you bring up a good point with the townhomes right next to Le Rave Boca Raton. It's that, I was wondering how they would fit together, if there would be a clash, because those townhomes next to it are a little older, but they're very nice. They're well maintained. And I know that I've seen that problem many times firsthand when I was living in Atlanta just a few years ago. There's so much turnover there. And one of the common complaints among residents, particularly in like East Atlanta, you have these older, early 20th century homes that are very nice, very well maintained. But then you got the more modern contemporary style. I don't even know how to describe it. The big blocks or whatever that have been moved into its place. And it just, it doesn't, it's polka dots. It just does not look good together. And that's been an ongoing battle. But that's what it made me think of. I'm like, well, at least these don't seem to clash as much. I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree. But there's enough, like if you go into that community, just like deeper into that neighborhood, you got everything. You got 2010 vintage stuff, 2000, 1960s. You got brand new product that looks super modern. You got unique builds, because that whole neighborhood right there is special. It has no association. So the builders and the local developers have come in and they've they've bought up most things, and gradually they're just tearing down homes and putting up these beautiful homes. And it's called the Golden Triangle. That's what we're looking at. Actually, let me share my screen real quick. So for context, what you're looking at here is Meisner Park, right? Let's just get rid of that. So Meisner Park is here, and this is the general area where all the residential single-family homes are. This is the project we're talking about right now, the new townhomes. And so in here, this is considered, if you zoom out a little bit, the Golden Triangle. See right here, I can't draw on this.
Oh, it does kind of look like a triangle. I think we may have lost Larry here. So anyway, as we were pointing out, that is the Golden Triangle. Hopefully oh, there you are, Larry. You froze up, lost you. I was like, all right, well, we're moving on. But it does kind of look like a triangle. I could see that. I never really noticed that before.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how they came up with the Golden Triangle, but this is arguably it. And so this area has been redeveloped, and dirt in here is selling for between 1.5 and 2 million, maybe 2.5 million if it's an amazing, huge lot. But really the new builds are, in the range of 4 million or something like that, 5 million, 6 million. We've recently toured a few of them in the 6s. So depending on what it is. Yeah. So this is the prime location. It's some of the best real estate in Boca. So.
All right. Well, it's, yeah, there are some lovely homes in a very, very nice location. Let's go back to near the Boca Raton Golf Club. You have the Alina residences, which I know you had an opportunity to see firsthand. Tell us a little bit about that experience and what happened with you and where the project is at this point.
No problem. And just for context, we have the Aletto at Sanborn on the bottom of our screen.
Oh, we do. I will update it. You have my word.
Get with it, John.
I know.
Yeah. So the Alina residences, these guys have done a great job at executing. They're almost entirely sold out. They have just a few left. There's 3 buildings bordering the Boca Raton golf club there. And so this is from a little ways back, right? Yeah, a year ago. But if you see what it looks like today, I mean, they're planning to be done by the end of the year. They're planning to be sold out.
Look out. I mean, day and night difference. I was taken back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And for the record, I wasn't intentionally trying to make the color look better on the shots from today. If I recall, when I shot that previous stuff, it was kind of overcast. So that's just how it played out.
This is a great shot.
Hey, there you are.
Oh, look at us. All right. So this is from recently too, October. Oh, this actually, I think this was from maybe a year ago also.
Oh, it was.
Believe it or not.
I thought you had just toured it recently.
I did just tour it recently again. Actually, we're about to list a unit in this building. So yeah, but that was another tour we did. So we've been in there a number of times working with clients. We've helped people pre-sell them or pre-purchase them, and now we're getting ready to help some people sell in there now that they've been in there for a little while, believe it or not. So some of the buildings have been done for a while, but now really is when you're going to get to take advantage of all the amenities, everything that Alina has to offer, because the 3 buildings on some level share amenities. The middle building has its own amenities and can use everybody else's amenities, but people who are in this 2 left and right buildings can't use the middle amenities. But either way, there is multiple pools, lap pools, amazing gyms, awesome hangout areas, beautiful gardens,
look at
beautiful
that view.
views.
That's as nice as you're going to have in Boca. I mean, that's a beautiful setup.
I really like this community, or this 3 building setup here. It's really nice, and its proximity to if you're a member of the Boca Raton Club, it's great. You can golf cart right in, right, and you can walk right across the street to Royal Palm Plaza, which is awesome, and then walk to Meisner Park if you want from there. So, yeah. And
for people that aren't necessarily familiar with all the details of it, this is a 3-part project. With it started out with the Alina 200, which was finished a couple of years ago. That's right.
Yeah.
So, and then the 210, as you were talking about, I mean, that's the middle one with the 30 move-in ready residences, which started in August. and then the Alina 220, which is expected to be delivered in late 2024. Do you think it's going to be? You think it's going to be ready by then? I mean, I saw the bottom floors, and there was noticeably still some work to be done.
I think it's going to be done by first quarter of 25 at the latest. Okay. Their expectation is this they're going to be done selling these by the end of the year. That's their target. That's their goal, for the sales team's goal. So, and they're not too far off from that. And really what's limiting them right now is most buyers that are looking at the final units in there, they just want to move into something that's done. They don't want to wait. So as soon as the final ones are done, finished, completed, they're probably going to sell pretty quickly. So once this thing gets really finished, and they're rocking and rolling, man, it's not like the Mandarin over there. Let's put it that way. It's not like the Mandarin.
And that's why, not to get too far off topic, but let's rewind to about a year ago when you saw those construction sites going on, be it the Alina residences, the Royal Palm residences, and Mandarin. If you're in that Boca Raton Golf Club area, and you're getting these aerial shots, you see the construction cranes everywhere, and you're kind of like, oh, well, there's a lot of stuff going on. And now as the dust settles, so to speak, they're all done. And the Mandarin's still sitting there. It looks like it's barely moved. It just makes it look that much worse.
It's a joke. It's like, what is happening, right? Because you see all these other incredible developers just knock stuff out and close deals and move on. Yeah. And these guys can't. So anyway, we've dwelled on that enough.
Yes. All right. So now I feel I can't help it. I just keep throwing dirt on it. The horse is not moving. I'm going to keep kicking it. So let's see a project that is, not necessarily a condo. So we have homes, and if you've heard the Toll Brothers, I feel like every, housing project in South Florida, kind of west of the area, be it's either the Toll Brothers or GL Homes. I feel like their stamp is on everything. And the latest ones, at least in Boca Raton, seem to be the Toll Brothers. This is the Maravita project, which is at State Road 7, 441 and Clintmore Road. Larry, what do you know about that so far?
So it's pretty much just dirt right now. So they're not as far along as GL's project, the Lotus Edge, which is the newest development by GL in Boca Raton. So they're moving dirt over at GL, not to derail this conversation, but they're moving dirt. They're putting homes up. Toll Brothers is a little bit behind them on that. Toll Brothers versus GL, without getting too into it, Toll Brothers historically is supposed to build a little bit more of a luxury product, and usually the neighborhoods are a little bit more boutique. So example, I don't know, John, if we can share our screen here and show them some of the pictures from that, but Toll Brothers, this community is smaller than the GL Homes communities typically. They're expecting home prices to start in this new community at what, 2.4, 2.3, which is above what the GL Lotus Edge community is starting at right now. They're around
2.3 million is starting.
Yep. So, and 2.3 is you're not paying 2.3.
Starting.
You're paying more than 2.3. And same with the GL communities. You walk in the door there, I think their starting price is somewhere at the 1.9 range, something around that, maybe 2, maybe 2.1. So lower than Toll Brothers homes. And you're just not paying that when you finally finish everything off. So it looks, Toll Brothers does a good job, in my opinion. We've been in a number of Toll Brothers communities. We've helped people buy and sell in their communities. They've built some beautiful single family home neighborhoods here in Boca and in South Florida in general. Let's give them some details on this, John. You're looking at it a little bit more.
I know. I was just saying, obviously you have all these world-class amenities, the resort style swimming pool, the cabanas, the fitness center, playground. I always gloss over it because it's like the expectation. And I say that as a compliment to the likes of Toll Brothers and GL Homes. But yeah, these are some magnificent setups.
They've done a good job, I think, the developers, Toll Brothers, GL, and some of the others, at building amenities that I think make more sense than some of the older communities in the area. Whether it's like, I don't know, some of these older neighborhoods that have like poor poor layouts and floor plans, or just stuff in the amenity section that people don't need. The amenities in these newer development communities, as you said, John, it's kind of expected, but I mean, they're killing it. They have awesome pools. They got areas for kids. Every time I go to some of these new communities, there's like action in the neighborhoods. Most of these communities are built for families. GL is focused on that. Toll Brothers is focused on that. So the amenities there are built around, servicing that type of clientele, which is really nice. They usually have some kind of food option there in the community, and the HOA fees are reasonable in most cases. I don't know what they're projecting here for this one, but GL is around 700 to 800. So I'm sure it's somewhere in that space. So this actually is a little bit smaller. There's not as many homes in this community as the GL community. So this amenity package is a little smaller, but simply done, nice, clean, good views, and functional, right? Good, really nice gyms in most cases. So I expect a really nice community gym here. And really nice pool atmosphere.
And you bring up an interesting point. They clearly have their niche in terms of who they're trying to market this to. You have the playgrounds, you have the arcades, and all kinds of stuff. These are being built for potential families, right?
Yeah, they even have water.
I was going to say though, but when you leave in Florida, it's where you retire. So it's like I picture in the 55 plus communities taking up all of these areas. But that hasn't been the case at all. Does that surprise you?
I think there's such a demand for homes in South Florida, let alone Boca Raton, that it makes sense for any of these developers not to limit themselves to 55 up. There are some developers that have done that in Parkland and Boynton recently, and they've executed really well too. And they've had incredible amenities put in their projects. But here, I mean, you'd see the prices they're getting for not limiting themselves to 55 and up. And I would also say what we're experiencing right now in Boca Raton specifically is younger families that can afford to spend because maybe they're coming out of well-paying jobs in the cities, such as like Miami, as an example. We're selling a number of homes to clients that are moving from Miami. They're either having their first kid, have a couple kids, they're over living in the city, they're over Miami, whatever the reason is, but they're getting out of some of that density and they're looking for good public schools, a little bit less density. And while Boca Raton is relatively dense compared to other parts of the country, it's a good reprieve for them, and it's good in between, and you're still in between major airports and major places to go out and enjoy, So I think we're seeing Boca Raton get younger over the years versus the opposite, people retiring down here. In fact, most older people can't afford to live in South Florida anymore. Frankly, this isn't really the cheap place to live any longer. And so I think we're getting less older people and more younger people. There you go. There's an example of that community. And it's small, right? It's
very limited as opposed to the Lotus and Lotus Edge. And my goodness, I mean, the space that they've taken up to build big homes, it's a lot of land.
And what's interesting, if you're looking at a map, which we're not right now, you would notice that just to the north and to the east, so north and east, this neighborhood is surrounded by another community that's really well known in the area, the Oaks, which offers a decent amount of amenities as well. The homes are relatively big, 4, 5, 6 bedrooms, 3,000 plus square feet. 4,000, 5,000, like big homes in some cases. And some of these homes in the 3,000 square foot range are selling in the 2 millions or asking in the 2 millions. You're getting like in the mid to high ones upward, right? And so for them to ask 2.4 as a starting price, you probably finish at 2.7, 3 million, right? But isn't like an unreasonable asking price whatsoever. So yeah, great. Yeah, point it out.
I know. I'm trying to find it blind here. I don't have.
You're doing great.
For everything. I think you're just saying that. All right, where are we here?
Yeah,
it's right. I was gonna say that's. I'm so
You're
accustomed
close.
to looking up Lotus.
We've
Spent so much time talking about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, this is I picture obviously all the new communities being out here, but evidently that's not entirely the case, which kind of surprised me that one of these other Toll Brothers projects that we're going to get to in a second, it's a little more central located.
Yeah,
Central.
let's talk about it. Let's show
Yes,
them
this
what's that.
is the what you call it? It was the
So
Leighton Point is the
yeah.
name of it. I will pull that up on the
So
community map here if we can go
so
back to
overall,
tour.
there is new construction in Boca. Some options. This Toll Brother community a little bit more east, which is kind of neat. I like this location. Yeah, actually, let's point it out. I want to show them. That should be a
Say, I know
Delray.
it was in Delray. Well,
Yeah,
where was
scroll
it? Oh,
down.
here
Right.
we go. Leighton Point, Delray Beach.
Yeah.
Yes. Now this one's as opposed to the 2-3, we're starting out in the 1-4s here.
So go back real quick. I want to show them on the map where it is. If you hit the back button real quick, and you see that one right there, that Delray Beach location. Can you zoom in on that map?
Yeah. I can.
All right. So pretty solid location off of Linton, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Military Trail, I think it was. Yes.
Yeah. So Linton and Military, that's pretty solid. I mean, you shoot right down south, you're in Boca in the heart of Restaurant Row, right? You're at the mall. You got all that action there. You go a little east and slightly north on Military and east on Atlantic. You're in downtown Delray Beach. I mean, this is a pretty solid location overall, and you're quick to 95, whether it be via Atlantic, Linton, or if you want to get on the Turnpike, you just jump on Atlantic and head out west. Not bad. This is a pretty in between location. I tell people when they're shopping for a home, they sometimes should consider, if they have kids, where they want to be, because they're going to be driving in all directions, north, south, east, and west. So like central in Delray or Boca is a good option, because if you live all the way east like I do on the island, to get west, it's like a 30-minute drive, right? But if you're in the middle, you're 15 minutes left or west, 15 minutes east. It's really efficient. So this new development project is gonna sell quick.
Yeah, I bring this up because of Leighton Point's centralized location. You've done videos in the past, very recently, about some of those rental communities. Entire neighborhoods that are nothing but rental spots. That Nuevo Boca in Boca Raton, as an example. I mean, do you see anything like that? I mean, coming to Delray Beach or any of the other surrounding cities in Palm Beach County or even North Broward? I
think if a developer can, the developers that like that, if they can find the land to do it, they'll do it. The rental demand is so strong here. I think that project in Nuevo Boca rented out faster than they could even build the darn houses, right? Because there's a number of single family homes that they've built, and a lot of them. And I think they did a pretty good job. And I like that. I like that concept for them. It also offers maximum flexibility for the investor developer that built those. I mean, they can sell them off one by one. They can sell the whole project to another investment firm that can continue to manage it. So I think if they can find the land, they're going to do it. But really, the main players down here, like the GLs of the world, they've been playing this game for so long locally in South Florida. They've been all over the lots, or all over these big areas of development. So I think they're ahead of everybody else. So it's more likely that Toll Brothers, GL, and some of the other players get their hands on these lots and build them to sell, because that's their model. And I don't think they're going to change that. They're not going to do a build to BTR, build to rent model. They're just going to keep developing and moving on. So probably less likely to see that. More likely to see some what they call condo or apartment buildings that offer some kind of subsidy for people, like they call them LIHTC deals, where they build with the intent of having some affordable housing. And by affordable in South Florida, they mean still expensive, right? Yeah. But
right. So speaking of properties that are not exactly build to rent. You know, I feel like to a certain extent we almost buried the lead here. The Boca Raton City Council approving an oceanfront building, and this comes after the marathon hearing. Maybe you're more familiar with this than I was, but I had no idea that they were possibly going to build a residential home east of the coastal construction control line. I didn't realize there was such a restriction there. What do you know about this?
So I would say
It's right by you too.
It is right by me, and we've sold a number of condos kind of in front of that. And frankly, some of the condos actually that we've sold look right at it. Like,
yeah,
so
Royal Palm Yacht Club, isn't it?
Right, exactly. You know it because you filmed it with me there. So that's very interesting. That one unit we sold looks right at it across the way. So that's going to inhibit the view a little bit there. I don't think it's really that big of a deal. There wasn't really an incredible view to begin with from that location or that condo unit. But yeah, so we're familiar with this, right? But usually building beyond the coastal construction line is a no-no. Like it just doesn't happen.
It's just essentially east of A1A is my understanding. I don't know.
There's a line. There's literally a line. It doesn't have to be explicitly east of A1A. You can build homes on the ocean, right? But it varies, right? And so these guys were asking for a variance to build a little bit more on that. And obviously it's an environmental thing. It's a climate risk thing. And there's a number of commentary on that. But also note that like some of these condos are built beyond that line as well.
I didn't know if there was like, if it was restricted to just condos, you know, like it was a Boca Raton city restriction or something. Because if you go up like into Highland Beach, then suddenly you see all the houses right up against the beach. I thought maybe that was a city ordinance of some sort.
I think it's a federal rule, like regulation, or not, or a state regulation, something like that. I don't think, but obviously the cities are going to abide by it, and obviously the environmentalists are going to push back pretty aggressively. What's interesting about this is they got approval to build beyond that line, right? And that's what everybody's up in arms about. And so yeah.
Does that set a precedent then? I mean, now that you've let one, that's when everyone's like, all right, let's, we're going to build east of that coastal line. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think that's the concern for some environmentalists. The environmentalist concern here, if anybody doesn't know, is there's turtles that nest on our shores every year, and it's kind of a big deal, right? These turtles can go endangered or extinct because this is where they do it. This is it, right? So there's actually research from the universities locally. There's places on the beach where they what is it, Gumbo Limbo facility, right? That specifically focuses on this, rehabbing them, monitoring them, taking care of them. They go out every year and they put the stakes down and make sure the nests are protected, because everybody's on the beach walking around and they got to protect these nests for the turtles. And then you have to have certain glass on the ocean, so that way your windows don't show too much light through and the turtles don't get turned around and walk to A1A instead of walking to the beach when they hatch, right? There's all these things. And so that's one of the concerns that the environmentalists brought up in these meetings. Like, hey, you're going to displace turtles and turtle nesting areas. And it's not like they just go nest somewhere else. They get all discombobulated and they die basically. Right. So that's the argument there. So yes, is it going to set a precedent? Maybe, and that's not good. There's not too many other areas, I think, that you can play with this here locally in Boca. So I guess not super worried about it. And then also the interesting comment they made here, and I was surprised at this, the developer of this project said that they're going to make sure they put naturally or locally occurring fauna on the property, which is the only area, right?
Yeah.
That in Boca will be the only area, if they do this, that will actually have indigenous shrubbery and plants
on the property.
Only on the property, not just like this mix of invasive species that are all over the shoreline there, right? So that's kind of interesting. So they basically that was kind of their like ploy to the environmentalists, like, hey, we're going to make a huge effort. We're going to spend a bunch of money to do this really right, the way you guys would obviously ideally want it. And please just let us build this darn house. And they made them make the house smaller. They limited
all that for a house, huh?
Right. I don't know. I wonder if they think it's worth it. I don't know at the end of it.
Gosh, that's cool, I guess, for the environmental sake, but just talk about, compromising all of this stuff just for a house.
I would say, and the other argument is when they're coming up with this stuff, like everybody, the city was pushing back, everybody was pushing back. They were saying that, listen, this property has been available to the city, and the city's had multiple opportunities to buy this thing. And the city, in some cases, doesn't hesitate to pick up land. They've done it. They've spent real money picking up land in the past, and they didn't pick up land in this case. They didn't buy this property, and they're like, you guys didn't buy it. We stepped up. We bought it. This is our project. This is what we'd like to do. And so that was one of their arguments as well. So, yeah.
All right. One more thing that I guess we'll touch on that's a little bit off topic. It's still, it's still certainly relevant considering that we had another hurricane come through here. Evidently, that happens in Florida. I wasn't aware of that. But this was a report that came out of the NBC in Fort Myers a week or so ago, talking about how Florida's largest insurer, which is Citizens, wants proof of hurricane repairs, which is a way of saying they want the receipts for everything you do to repair your home before we reimburse you for our coverage, which makes sense. As we were kind of tearing into the insurance companies last week with, how they were screwing so many policyholders out of what they were owed by manipulating and altering, I should say, the damage assessment reports. The other side of the spectrum are the policyholders who are trying to screw over the insurance companies, which is certainly, nothing new. But what got me out of all of this is the fact that Citizens Insurance, which is a state-run insurance company, is now the largest insurer when it comes to home insurance. They've spent nearly $3 billion on over 200,000 policies since Hurricane Ian. I didn't realize Citizens, I know they had gotten much bigger, especially with all those other insurance carriers leaving Florida. I didn't know they had become the biggest. Were you aware of that?
Yeah. And they've systematically been trying to get rid of policies. So what they've done, and I have a number of properties. And so what they've done is if they can get something somewhat close or within tolerance, an insurance provider within tolerance, they drop you at the renewal and they push you over to the next guy, the newest guy in here. So for example, I have one building that I had to renew. I had Citizens, 9-unit apartment building, now moved over to condo owners reciprocal. And they just pushed me off them. I didn't have a choice. I have a choice to go find other insurance providers, but they actually almost shop for you and then try to push you off because they're trying to get out of this mess, which is they're supposed to be the insurer of last resort, not the biggest insurer in the state of Florida.
Yeah, that's why I was so surprised.
So that's the struggle here. And reminder to everyone who's, listening and watching, hey, when people make claims and the premiums don't cover it, like the aggregate premiums from all these people who have Citizens Insurance, who pays for that? Us, who are living here, the taxpayers, right? So we're all just subsidizing one way or another, we're all paying for this insurance whole mess. It doesn't matter. And to your point, now they're the biggest. What are they at now? Do you have any idea? Did it say? But last I read was like 16, 18, 25, somewhere in that percent range of how many of the amount of insurance policies they're holding right now compared to others. So
right, I see that in addition to exactly what you were saying, how they're trying to drop policyholders. Additionally, they have requested a 14% rate hike. That'll scare off some people.
Here's the kicker. Insurance is still going up. I know people are saying, oh, they're bringing more insurance providers into the market. This is happening. It's getting more liquid. I've just gone through renewals of a lot of policies for myself, and it's jaw-dropping how bad it is. And in fact, some of my properties aren't even insured right now. I'm in the process of replacing roofs, trying to get insurance, because arguably no one will insure me, even though my roofs don't leak. It's too old for certain insurers, and they just want anything to do with me. And I had Citizens before that. Citizens has dropped me. And
really,
and here's the thing, like dropping me with like 30 or 60 or 90-day notice, it's not that helpful. Number one, if your insurance broker's not on top of it, and like communicating to you, or you're not like aware of the fact that, hey, you're about to get dropped, you're going to wait until you get closer to the time for renewal. And then you're going to find out, oh, I have to replace a roof. Oh crap. Well, it takes 4 weeks just to get permits approved, right? Usually for a roof, especially during hurricane season. So 4 weeks plus another 4 weeks at least to put the roof on. You're 2 months right there, 60 days. Your renewals deadline is toast.
Mm-hmm.
So and understanding exactly what you're getting dropped for, and if you can go shop for something else, it's not easy. It's not, and I'm experienced at this. I have no insurance on some properties at the moment. So an experienced investor still getting jammed, that just signals to you like this isn't good for the average person. That one can't just at the drop of a hat drop all this money on a roof and fix it, and two, maybe doesn't understand how this process works really well, and is probably finding out 5 days before or the day it expires that he doesn't have insurance and can't get insurance anywhere else, and now is getting force placed at some crazy number, right? So,
jeez. All right. Well, didn't want to finish on a down note, but here we are with the insurance. All right.
On that note,
that's about all the time we have for now. For Larry Mastropieri, I'm John Laws with Discover South Florida. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you guys on the next one.